Hey, Dr. Johnson here with you again for another. This is our 20th program on virtue, and this one may be a little bit different. I don't know if you've ever thought of the connection between virtue and leisure. Interesting topic. You know, over the years, I've learned a lot about leisure from our three sons. I can remember back when they were in grade school, and I'd ask them, well, how was school today? And, you know, I noticed that I didn't hear a whole lot about subjects or academics. What I was hearing about was my friends, the sports they were in, the clubs they were doing, the socializing they were doing. It was all about leisure that they were talking to me about. And I thought, wow, and I always tried to, steer it over to, well, what's happening in math class and what's happening, in here history class, et cetera, et cetera. I guess I was comparing that to my childhood where, yeah, I played sports with the kids in the neighborhood and I did, hung out and rode my bike and all of that. But the things that I really remember more than that are things that had to do with work. Working around the house, mowing the lawn, keeping the yard well. I liked getting affirmation from my father about, oh, Richie, you did a really good job doing that. I like the way that looks. Wow, that really kind of turned me on. And then when I was 13, I created my own lawn care company, and I probably had 10 or 12 lawns that I did every week. And I really liked the notion that I was getting money for all of that. In other words, achievement. And that whole notion that what I call now the psychology of leisure was really anemic. I was achievement oriented, and that has really continued in my life. I mean, how many people write 57 books? I'm almost embarrassed to say that, as I've told you before. It's like, but I like the achievement. I like the notion of, I like understanding things, and I find that writing books about it allows me to understand it at a pretty deep level, and that I can use it in classes that I teach as well. In any event, I've also learned in counseling people over a long time that there is a wide spectrum of what I would call their leisure psychology. There are some people, like my sons, who really focus their leisure. By the way, our sons are still very leisure focused. They're all, they have jobs and they're successful and all of that sort of stuff, and they pay their taxes, etc. But leisure seems to occupy at least a big space in their brain, their whole lifestyle here. Other people don't, I've noticed. In my counseling patients, I see that some have a very strong leisure psychology and others simply don't. So I could ask you the question, how important is leisure in your life? Is your personality more skewed toward work or more towards leisure? Interesting question. My delving into leisure, I've done a lot of writing actually on leisure, achievement oriented, of course, trying to make it leisurely writing. But I have found out this is a standard belief of mine right now. Leisure is a fundamental human need. Leisure is a human need. Surprisingly, without leisure, I have found we ultimately get sick. Really, we get sick. If we work hard enough, long enough, without a break, without a respite, and without the soothing balm of leisure, you will get sick. You will first get sick emotionally, and then it ripples over into physical illness. I've seen this so many times. Have you ever thought, however, that leisure is a gift of virtue? We could also turn that around and say that virtue is a gift of leisure. Let me explain that. Leisure gives us the holy opportunity to move beyond our shadows and our compulsions and rest in the truth, beauty, and goodness of our virtue strengths. Pretty amazing. Without leisure, we risk the gradual erosion of our true human spirit. Leisure fills those empty spaces that emerge in us as we engage in our life, which means leisure generates trust, the virtue of trust. leisure settles our bodies after concentrated or tedious activity has gradually raised our stress level, which means leisure gives us the virtue of peace. Leisure relieves that built-up pressure caused by our use and sometimes our overuse of our physical and mental faculties, which means that leisure grants us the virtue of simplicity. Leisure unwinds those thousands of what I call rubber band-like strands that have become so tightly coiled and knotted even in our personality that result from prolonged exertion without rest, leisure. Consequently, leisure grants us the tremendous virtue of transcendence, going beyond. And leisure offers us a respite in a world which otherwise asks much too much of us many times, which means that leisure can grant us the virtue of harmony. Did you know that there's 6 categories of leisure? That everything that you do or that you're about in the leisure life arena, and there are 6 life arenas which we've covered I think in another time, but there's 6 different kinds or types or categories of leisure, and they are, and I'm not going to go into them deeply. I've written a chapter in this book that I'm taking all of this from, which hasn't come out yet, but I hope it will at some point. The first category of leisure is called social interaction. We interact with other people. We find that, have a coffee with somebody or just get together or just hang out with people. Social interaction. It's a form of leisure. Number 2 is spectator appreciation. Well, we watch sports. That's probably the first thing that comes to mind with spectator appreciation. But I've many times, and maybe you have, go through airports and I just like to watch people. So I'm a people watcher. So that's a form of leisure in itself. The next, third category of leisure is called creative expression. We do things. We like to draw. We like to, I had one of my friends who he tied flies. He was a fly fisherman, and he found that to be great leisure. So this was sort of a creative expression for him. Music, either listening to music or playing music, etc. Anything that has to do with the arts would be in this creative expression. The fourth kind of leisure is called intellectual stimulation. That probably is me more than anything. I like to read, and I like to read a lot of spiritual books and other things, history and things like that. So that's leisure for me. I enjoy it. I don't read many novels, although my wife's a big novel reader, and so that is her leisure. She likes that. The fifth kind of leisure is called physical exercise. We like to move this body we have needs to move, and we like to move it most of the time. Sometimes we are too tired to do it, but that's a form of leisure too. Any kind of sports you may be in with, any type of running or going to the gym or just walking around the block. The sixth and final category of leisure is called solitary relaxation. And there's an old saying, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but something goes like this. Sometimes I sit and think. Other times, I just sit. What are we talking about? Solitary relaxation. Sometimes I just like to sit in my bedroom and look out the window. I like to look at the birds that are feeding at the feeder that's out there. I like to look at the leaves or the snow or the whatever out there. It's leisurely for me. Leisure is a very valuable and powerful human endeavor. But some people, like me perhaps, don't see or don't get into leisure in ways that certainly my children do. Because when we don't have leisure, things start going a little awry with us. When we depreciate our leisure needs, we discount our own sense of well-being. This is the shadow of self-abasement. When we depreciate our leisure needs, we lose sight of our true nature, who we really are, and we risk falling prey to the attitude that we live to work. This is the shadow of inadequacy. Leisure reminds us that our sole purpose in life is not simply to do, but rather to be. And to be implies a spiritual, talking to the spiritual quality within you. You can say it talks to your heart. Okay, fine. I think it goes deeper. I think it goes talking to your soul. So leisure is an element of soul. With a new vision, you grow away from, with this new vision, you can grow away from the dark work as our chief definer of life and come to see that your leisure interests and pursuits are part of your faith journey and therefore a condition of your soul. There's a lot more I could talk about with regard to leisure, but my primary focus today is to be able to say, I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but leisure is part of your spiritual life. And when you engage in leisure, you are activating virtues within you. Thanks for listening. Really appreciate being with you today. God bless.